Hi, my name is Megan, and my RTI I'm going to be discussing my own words is called Forced Choice Reinforcement Assessment. So it's a very unique kind of assessment, and it's used primarily for choosing rewards for students, or rather having the student choose a reward. The reason why you might do something like this is that certain students who are low functioning, or especially students who are nonverbal, autistic students, for example. Sometimes if they have severe disabilities, they might have difficulty developing intrinsic motivations for certain learning activities, and they would definitely have difficulty in telling what they prefer, what they'd like to do as a break or as a reward. So this is especially useful for very low functioning students who are nonverbal, whether or not they're autistic. So here's just the breakdown of how to implement this. Jim Wright, first of all, he gives in his article an attachment called Forced Choice Reinforcer Grid. Reinforcer Assessment Grid. And it's basically like a breakdown of how to do it. You just print it out. It's basically 2 pages. What you're going to do, number one, is you're going to prepare a list of known preferences using family members, parents, or observations of the student. Whatever you observe that they like, or whatever their parents or guardians might tell you that they like, food items, toys, whatever they gravitate towards, games, specific objects, or quiet time, or going for walks, or interactions with people, or some I'm familiar with when it comes to my students are computer time, watching specific DVDs, playing games on the iPad, like those game apps, fidget spinners, toys, handballs. Sometimes it's just quiet time. Sometimes it's interaction with a specific person. It could vary. It could be food. It could be candy. It could be snacks. So the chosen preferences should be easily accessible to you and to the student, and not known to reinforce any maladaptive behavior or to set them back in any way. If possible, they should be age appropriate, depending on the population you're working with. Number 2, you want to narrow down you basically want to have 6 or fewer preferences that you know that the student would probably like, or has been known to like. And you want to mark each one with 1 through 6, 6 being the absolute most, because after that it's a lot of trials. So you want to use a reinforcer assessment grid, which is really useful in labeling and just listing every preference. And then you want to have those ready for you in a room or a place without a lot of distractions with the student, and then you can start. So when you use the grid, you want to present 2 random preferences. For example, number 1 could be computer time. Number 2 could be going for a walk. Number 3 could be a snack. It could be crackers. Number 4 could be coloring. So let's limit it to 4 for right now. You want to have those ready, and you want to present number 1, number 2, for example. And the grid helps you to show what pairing you have. So, for example, number 1, number 2, you have computer and you have a walk. You could use pictures to show the student a representation of what it is that they can pick, and then you want to wait 10 seconds at the most, 5 or 10 seconds for them to decide or to choose. They might gesture to you, they might point, they might try to say what they want. And in that case, you either circle number 1, number 2, or no choice if they don't pick anything. So you just use the reinforcer grid for that. After that, you basically present that. You can have them go for a really quick walk. You can have them go on the computer for a few seconds, or 10 seconds at the most, and then you bring them back and you try 2 different preferences. And you want to do that until every one preference has been paired with the other. So if you have 6 preferences, it's going to be 15 trials that you're doing. If you have 5 preferences, you're going to have about 10 trials, and then it gets fewer and fewer, depending on how many you can find, and present each time to the student to let them have it. After that, it's just a matter of calculating the number of times that they chose that preference over the number of times that it was paired to them. So if they, for example, number 1 was time on the computer or time on the iPad, and it's number 1, so you offered it 5 times total in that entire assessment period. and they chose it 4 out of the 5 times, it's going to be an 80% percentage, which is pretty high. After you calculate the percentages, you're just going to divide the number of times it was chosen over the number of times it was presented, and then multiply by 100 and you get the percentage. Then you rank them, and what's suggested by Jim Wright is to test the reinforcers or the rewards or the preferences. So you might give a simple task of matching, some sort of learning task or some sort of activity, and then you would present that highly ranked or most ranked reward or preference and let the student just take a break, go on the computer or have a snack, whatever it is that they picked that's the highest, and then you would do the same thing with another matching activity and present something that was lesser preferred and see how their behavior changes, or if they demonstrate to you that they prefer one or the other, and then if they do, then you found something that they really enjoy, that they love to use on their breaks. And my suggestion, which I use, is to use pictures or icons to help them identify what they want, because in my experience, students pick a varying different, they're all unique to each other in every way, and a lot of students pick different things at different times. One girl I worked with would have a very specific time where she was just allowed to talk about anything that she wanted for an allotted time, and that was just because she had certain echolalia and certain behaviors relating to speaking, so she was allowed to kind of take a break and to talk, or she was allowed to go on her iPad and watch her favorite show. Sometimes she picked candy, so she varied it all the time. So having these preferences accessible to the student is the way you want to go, because then that student can change their mind. They have the autonomy to pick what they like. Sometimes they might not like it at all, and you might have to do another preference assessment. So just being observant of the student, what they prefer, giving them those representations of those pictures to show what it is that they can pick, and always having it ready for them is a great way to reinforce appropriate and age-appropriate and good behavior, and having that student have the freedom to choose what they like. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to write. Thank you.